to 1 second. All right, there you go. I'm going to mute now.
Hi, I hope everyone's having a great week. What I am going to do is just give you a high-level overview of RangeForce, and then my colleague Steven is going to be doing a product deep dive to show you what all this looks like. So what we're doing here at RangeForce is we're building effective cyber training for your cyber pros so you can be able to assess what your team currently knows and what areas may need improvement to hit that end clear objective. In the late 2000s, our founders realized after building the NATO cyber range just how important that hands-on individual training is to be more cyber resilient. As you are probably aware, 2019 and 2020 made it really apparent breaches are on the rise. And what we find is there's a big gap in terms of the shortage of talent. So what we're doing to address that gap is combine e-learning and hands-on simulation training to optimize that retention. And having said that, I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Steven, to dive a little bit more into the platform.
So much. We'll jump right in and get started. So I'm going to start with a couple of things just so you kind of understand where we're headed with this. First, I'll talk about the layout of where we are on the screen with the things you'll see. Then we're actually going to jump in and do two different modules on Suricata. So first, I want to talk about the home page here. This is the landing page. This is what you'd see when you log in to the RangeForce platform. A couple of things that are right up front. You can do a search. So if there's something that you're interested in, like I want to learn about Docker, I've heard a lot about Docker, want to learn more about it. There's a place where you can just go and say, okay, teach me about that. And then there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is the way we've laid things out. Well, the first is we've organized things by learning paths. So we pulled these learning paths directly out of the NICE framework. And the idea is to say, a SOC analyst one, according to NICE, needs to know these things. And so we've broken it out that way into these courses. They're 10-week courses. They're about 3 to 4 modules per week. The modules are about 30 to 45 minutes. Some will be a little bit faster depending upon your skill set. But so SOC Analyst 1, SOC Analyst 2, Threat Hunter, Web Application Security, Cybersecurity Essentials, Microsoft Security Core. And then we've also broken them out by category. So security solutions, so Splunk, SIM and SOAR, threat intelligence, endpoint security, SOC operations. And you'll see these little dots over here on the right. Those are an indicator that I have, 3 pages of courses around SOC operations. And then DevOps, Web Application Security Essentials. And then we also have some security awareness videos for everyone to be able to use. So without any much ado, I'm going to jump over and actually show you one in action. So this module is on Suricata, and there's a couple of things before we even jump in that I want to talk about. One is that when we spin these modules up, we spin up everything that's needed. So if I look from a topology perspective, I have the desktop that I'm on. I have a firewall and a server, and all of those are brought up and actually up and running and doing the things that I need. I also have the material. So if I want to read about this and understand about what am I going to be doing, the materials here, and you'll notice in some of the modules that we have, the material tab is gone. And the idea is that we're trying to move the material from out of the material tab directly into the instructions. So you don't have to tab back and forth. So you can jump right in and go do it. And the last thing is feedback. So we love feedback. This is how we know that we're doing things right or wrong. And a lot of times it helps us understand, maybe we should have worded this question differently or done this a little bit differently, but this is what we're going to look for and go look at it. And we do read this. It goes straight to the engineers that write these, and they look at it and try to assess what do we need to do to make this better. So we're constantly fine tuning these as we go. So with all that said, we'll jump right in and get started. So first thing I'm going to do is click on Get Started. And so there's a little introduction. And usually all of them come with some kind of a story or backstory that come along with it to help you understand what's going on. And then there's the instructions that I need to follow. So these are the things that I need to do. So I've seen my network topology. I have a little bit of an idea about what's going on here. So let's do the things. It says SSH into the firewall. So I'm going to start with SSH student at firewall. Password is student. And so I'm logged in. I could have just as easily logged in there using the IP address up here. I could have done that as well since it was given to me over here. So either one would work. That it knows that I did it. So the next thing is it says, okay, you've done that. We move the progress bar. So let's go to our next objective. Install Suricata in the firewall. Now, if I don't know, this is a place where I can ask for help. So we do have hints where we need them. And so you can say, well, give me a hint. It says, well, you can install Suricata from the PPA repository or direct from APT. Well, or I can always go all the way down to reveal solutions. So for this one, we'll just go ahead and install it. So it's sudo apt install Suricata. And while that runs, we'll talk about this a little bit. So all of these are real virtual machines. They're not just simulations. So this is actually going out just like it would on any other machine. It's going to download this from the internet and install the software and get it up and running. And you might have noticed in the background, my progress bar moved here and said, we're moved up to 50% and that we're ahead and we could go ahead and configure this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm kind of waiting for this because sometimes it takes a second for the ManDB to update. Okay, there we go. Let's click on the next objective. The next thing is we're actually going to edit the file that is running and configure Suricata so that it's actually working. So here's my instructions. I need to change the listening interface under AF packet to be this interface and change the IP address range for HomeNet to be this restart to this. Now you could use any editor you want. You could use Vim or Nano. I'm a Vim guy, so I'm going to do sudo vim /etc /suricata and then suricata.yaml. And we'll go ahead and edit that. So inside of Vim, you can search by doing a slash. And so I know I need to edit AF packet. And so I can do AF and it takes me right there. And I'm going to hit enter. And I need to change this interface right here to be the ENP1S10. So I'm going to go to insert mode and do ENP1S10 and delete that and escape. That one's correct. And the next thing I need to do is search for HomeNet. Oh, except I want all caps. And that's right there. Enter. Come over here and we're going to change this to be 192.168.10.0/24. And we're going to delete everything else. So, oh, whoops, I moved the wrong line. That doesn't matter. And I'm going to delete all of the rest of that. Let's look at these other lines. They're commented out. They're okay. I don't need to worry about those. Escape, semicolon, right quit. Okay, so that's all done. I've configured that file. And now I have to restart Suricata. So the command is sudo service Suricata restart. And that will restart. Okay, moves the bar, it says we're done. Next objective. So the next one is it's time to test it. So we're going to look at and see that there's traffic that's being monitored and logged in this file. So we're going to come over here and we'll use a command called tail that says read the end of this file, except that I'm going to do sudo tail /var/log/suricata. And the file that we're going to look at is the eve.json. And we'll look at that. And so what I'm looking for is the name of a domain. So there's a malicious domain that's being queried from the server. And it's kind of hard to find in here. Here's the domain and our name. And so this is the domain that we're looking for. And one of the things that is kind of unique about the way we do things at RangeForce is this actually changes every single time you run through here. So it's not going to be the same domain because we're randomizing it. And this is very typical of domains that would be used in a command and control infrastructure where the domain names are being generated and registered by an algorithm. And so I'm going to just paste that in there, click save. It says that there's my answer. So I've done it. I've got this up and running. It's configured. Everything's good. I'm going to put a 5-star down here. I don't have any comments, and I'm going to click on save, and that'll save that. And then I'm going to jump over to the next one that we're going to do. So the next one is one of the next ones in Suricata. So Suricata is broken up into 4 modules and then a challenge. The 4 modules are the basics, IDS rules, IPS rules, rules management, and then there's a challenge called Bulkhead that is a little bit different. And so we'll focus on these ones, and then I'll talk about the challenge as we go on. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is I look at this, and I have a very similar topology. So all these machines are spun up. So I launched this from a different tab. And so I'm going to go in and say, okay, let's go back to the instructions and see what we need to do. So we're going to click on get started. First thing is SSH into the firewall as student. So pretty similar. SSH student at firewall. Password student. Okay, I'm in. And then I need to look at the Suricata logs. And so this is a little different log than we looked at the last time, but it's one of the other additional logs. So I'm going to do sudo tail /var/logs/suricata. And this one is fast.log. And we're going to look at that. And what we're looking for is an IP address of some malicious activity. So as I look through here, I can begin to see, here's a line, and it says, there's targeted malicious activity was detected. It was coming from this IP address going to this IP address on port 80. So the answer that I want here is 10.33.33.1, and that's the IP address that we're looking for. So I'm beginning to see that, I've got some malicious activity going on. I've got some rules set up that already tell me that there's some things happening here. And so I can begin to see that there are some things. The next thing, so we've done that objective. Let's go look and see. The next is to set up NFQ. So NFQ says to the firewall, I'm going to allow you to make a decision about whether this packet should go on or be dropped. So it's used for things like Suricata to say, it's a handoff between Suricata and the firewall, how they hand packets back and forth and look at them to say, should this be allowed to go in or not? So the first thing we have to do is set up NFQ and set IP tables to send the packets to that. And to do that, we're going to use these commands right here. And I'm just going to copy these, and we'll just sudo and then paste that in. And I have to do this for all 4 so that it sets it up correctly. And copy that one. Paste. And paste that one in. Okay, so now I've got those 4 rules set up. So the firewall is sending things to NFQ. The next thing I also have to do is set Suricata to listen to NFQ in the accept mode. So we do that, if we look for hints, we can say, well, give me a little bit of a hint. It says that I have to modify the suricata.yaml file. That's that configuration file that we modified in the last one. So we're going to do the same thing. Sudo vim /etc/suricata, suricata.yaml, and we'll use that to edit. It wants me to edit the NFQ. Now there is a little bit of a unique thing here in that in the file, NFQ is not spelled out. So in the IP tables, we spell it out, but actually in the configuration file, we just use the 3 letters NFQ, and we don't use the other 4 silent letters that don't say anything at all. So we're going to go there, and what it said to do is we need to set this to be the accept mode. So this is the character that I need to delete, that comment character, the hashtag that says that comment this out, everything after this is a comment. So now we've set this to be accept mode, and that's all we need to do here. So escape and right quit, and we're out. So that objective is completed. Let's go to the next one. And the next one is that we have to create some rules. So the first thing is we have to write and enable a prevention rule, so that I have to look in the Suricata YAML file again, the configuration file, and I have to include a rule called prevention rules and remove the other rules from there. So edit here, and just like we did last time, we're going to search this time for rules. And if I hit enter and do an N, that will take me down to the next one. So here's my default rule path, suricata.rules. These are my current rule files right here. So I'm going to edit this one. And we will change this one to be prevention. And escape. And then we're going to delete this line right here. So double D deletes that line. So that's all I need to do there. Escape, right quit. I'm out of that file. It's configured. And so I've got that done. Now, the next tab is going to have me create a rule. So we have to go create some prevention rules. So I'm going to click the next objective, and we're pretty close to being done here. And so it wants me to create some rules. And these are the 4 rules that I need to create. And these are the things that they are. So we're going to do drop protocol TCP from any port, any source port, any direction, or incoming direction, actually, not any direction. And this is the destination. So we already know that this is a bad IP address that these are coming to that we looked at in that first one. And then we're going to put in these messages and put a signature ID on and a revision. Now, to speed this up, I'm going to just jump down to the actual solution, and I'm going to copy these because I could just type these all in, but to speed this up and make it so it's not quite as long, I'm just going to copy those. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to do sudo vim /etc/suricata, and then we're going to do rules. And the new rule that we're going to write is prevention.rules. So that will create a new file that's there. And so all I need to do now is click insert and then paste in the rules that we wrote. So these are the rules that were specified in here. So if we look at these, you can see drop on protocol TCP any the incoming direction from this IP address, any source port, and the message is TCP IP message to malicious host drop, and the source ID or the ID on this is 10001. And so we've written those 4 rules: escape, right, quit. And now I also have to reload those rules or get them started. So right here it says that, I need to execute this command to get those to run. So sudo suricata sc -c reload -rules. And that will get those rules up and running, and they're now in effect and running. So this should move the marker to 100%, says it's done. But before we go, I want to go back to the very first command we ran, and I want to look at what we did. Did it really work? So we looked at these logs, and we're going to go see what's happening. So we go back to that very first log, and so now I can see, here's my timestamp. This is a drop. a UDP packet from malicious host dropped, right? The classification, the priority, the IP address that it was headed to, and the port and stuff that the port and destination was coming in on. So you can see, based upon this, I am now dropping all of these packets that are coming in. So I've got this up and running. It's working. I know that everything's good. I'm going to leave a quick 5 stars here, write a message, that says, hey, this was fun. And we'll just save that and we're done. So I want to just talk one last thing I want to come back to, and that's challenges. So in all of our training modules, we have the hints, we've got the help, we've got the things to get you going and up and running. But the last one that I want to talk about is actually challenges. So I'm going to come down here home. And if I go down to the module that is for Suricata right here, and I see that it's 5 modules, and here's the 4 basic ones. But if I click on view details, it takes me down into one last thing, and that's bulkhead. Now, challenges, these are the final exam of the quarter. They're designed to test your knowledge and say, hey, did you get this right? Do you have what you need to know to be able to execute this? So if I go ahead and launch this, I want you to kind of see how long it takes to launch one of these. But a couple of things while that's coming up. Here's the modules that we suggest before you do this. So the wording should kind of be a little bit stronger, even in my opinion. That if you didn't do these modules before this, you're going to probably struggle. So when we go to launch any of these, you'll see that we have several different sites that we can do it. We usually look to say which one's the least busy or the fastest one for you to be able to get to. And then we'll spin that up. And so kind of want you to see how long it takes to spin one of these up and be up and running. So we're spinning up all the parts, the firewalls, the routers, the servers, the web servers, all the things that you need that are part of this, including the desktop. And so there's a lot that comes up, including, things that we don't really kind of talk about. Like in that last one, there was actually another machine running in that network that was doing that active attack and providing that attack. And so we didn't really talk about it. It didn't show up in the thing because it's kind of designed to be from the internet, as coming out. So this is, finishing up the last little details here. It's making sure that the web server's up and running and it's connecting it to me. And a couple things that I really love about what we're doing is that you don't have to have anything special on your workstation. You can access this from any browser. I've had people say, I've done these before on my phone. The virtual teaching assistant watches for all the things to happen. So it's the thing that's making sure that everything happens. And so you see, here's this website that we have that has an insecure input coming into it. And there's a machine that's attacking this website while we're talking. And here's, as I go to get started, because this is a challenge, this is all I get, right? Here's the things I need to know. Connect to the firewall. Doesn't say SSH into the firewall. I should know that. It says, here's my host, the firewall, username and password, so things you'll need to do. And it says, inspect the Suricata event log. And then, in the other ones, it said, inspect this log here, right? This doesn't say any of that, so you should have learned this in the previous challenges, in the previous modules, so that when you come to the challenge, you're really tested. And we want to find out, do you know this? So with all that said, I'm going to stop talking and pass it back to John.
Thanks, Stephen. That was really informational and really interesting. If any of you are interested in just wanting to continue the conversation with me, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And my email is john.wilson@rangeforce.com. And then we can continue the conversation then.